We said that job description is nothing but a written statement of what the worker actually does and how he does it and what the job's working conditions are. Now, if you look at the typical job description, it will include job identification. It will be giving a job summary. It will be giving authority of the incumbent in terms of decision-making power, standards of performance as to how many hours it has taken or what quality is there. Then working conditions that is required at the workplace, that is vis-a-vis the machinery, the heating, lighting, ventilation, temperature, etc. And job specification will also be part of it. That is the qualification and other parts of it, which is there. We find that a job description, as we said, will be having job identification. A job identification is basically the title of that job, say marketing manager or an HR manager or assistant manager finance or production officers or so on and so forth, or information officers or system analyst, whatever. Then we also have got a status section, which is normally not found in Indian jobs. Then we have got preparation date as to when the job description was being prepared and when the description was written and who is the person responsible for writing it. The job summary will be the description of general nature of job, and it will also list the major functions or activities that involves a particular job. Then chain of command or relationships of one job with other, and the officers who are related. So reports to the employee immediate supervisor, the person who is reporting to, and the boss. How many person is being supervised by the supervisor? That is the employee that the job incumbent directly supervises. Or the peer group, who are they working with, or who are they are expected to work with internally. And then outside company, others with whom the job holder is expected to work and come in contact. If the job context is saying that it is going to form part of another job elsewhere, then that responsibility will also be written. The responsibilities and duties will be listing of jobs, major responsibilities and duties, but it will only list the essential functions. Not all function will be listed because the job comprises of a large number of functions, and only, like we said, not all jobs will be analyzed. Only key responsibility areas will be analyzed. Similarly, here only the key or essential functions will be listed. It will also define the limits of job holders' decision-making authority, that is direct supervision, budgetary limits, and so on and so forth. The standard occupational classification will also be there. That is, classifies all workers into one of, hypothetically 23 major groups or 25 major groups, of which are subdivided into, say, 105 groups or 106 groups. For example, if you look at the, Sixth Pay Commission, if you have come across that document, right? It said that it had band 1, band 2, band 3, and band 4. It also, merged. Earlier we had grade 1 employee, grade 2 employee, like that, and grade 4 employees. But that grade 4 employee was being removed, and they were merged into, band 1. And each band would have 8 to 10 different clusters. So if you count that 4 into 10, that will be coming down to around 40. Although in Indian, the Pay Commission lists about 48 such jobs which are there in 4 categories or 4 groups which were there. The 7th Pay Commission only brought about a change in that classification. They said that all classification of 6th pay commission will be as it is. Only thing is that band pay and your other within the band, it will be removed. Now, whatever has been your basic plus the band pay, that is the AGP we talk about, academic grade pay that is there, or grade pay in other cases, that will be merged and that multiplier will be applied on that, right? So what we find that is how they have calculated the salary for the present a lot, and the differences are still there, same way, that is the occupational classification. For example, if you look at the grade which was earlier, in the pay band 1, 15,600 grade, there were many positions which were classified into this particular group. An assistant professor would be having 15,600 starting, band pay. Then assistant finance officer would be having the same pay. Assistant registrar would be having the same pay. Assistant controller would be having the same pay. And assistant librarian will be having the same kind of a pay. So what we find that a large number of people are classified into that group. So there are major groups and minor groups, and within those minor groups, there are many, many classifications. So all those things will be done in the organizations. We further find that is the job function essential? That is very, very important to know. What 3 or 4 major activities actually constitute the job, and is each really necessary? Can we reduce the number of main activities, or is it that we have got to increase it to make it more effective? What is the relationship between each task? Because you have got to understand the distinction between job and task. Task is the subcomponent of that job, right? And therefore, the relationship between each task, is there a special sequence which the task must follow? For example, if you talk about assembly line of an automobile, right? The first thing that comes on the assembly line is the chassis that is there. And with that, each item has to be fitted in a particular sequence. If that sequence is disturbed, there will be problems. So that is the kind of listing we want us to, what is to be done first and what is to follow that. That will be defined. Do the task necessitates sitting, standing, crawling, walking, climbing, running, stooping, kneeling, lifting, carrying, digging, writing, operating, pushing, pulling, all kinds of things that is required, because with that the working condition will be determined. Similarly, we also have to see as to how many employees are available to perform the job functions, right? And can the job function be distributed among other employees if that is not available? How much time is spent on job performing each particular function? Are frequent tasks less important to success? Would removing a function fundamentally alter or change the nature of job? So we also have got to see as to what happens if the task is not completed on time. Does the position exist to perform that function? Because if you see on the assembly line, if say you do not fit a bolt or a nut onto the bolts, that remains unattended to, because you have got to move that within a specified period of time. And what we find that normally it is an automated function. It is not a manual function that is there. And in automated function, you've got to work with a particular speed. Are employees in the position actually required to perform the function? Is there a limited number of other employees available to perform that job? What is the degree of expertise required or skill required? What is the actual work experience? What is the amount of time individual actually spends? And what are the consequences of not requiring the performance of that function? Now, if you look at this slide, it will give you a typical kind of a job uh, that is there. Now, standards of performance and working condition, that is, list the standards an employee is expected to achieve under each of the job descriptions, main duties and responsibilities, right? Now, can you tell me by looking at this picture as to what would be the job description? Anybody? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Look at the picture and tell me what would be the job description in brief. Does it tell anything?
So it can be like probably there's a need of a nurse in the emergency department of an hospital, and
I'm saying job description. What
The
actually?
highly,
so
the highly
graduation. So
efficient.
One person at a time, please.
So education will be mentioned first, like what should be the education, and then what like rules and responsibilities will be
The work
there. The
experience.
shift timing will be there.
Job description.
So must have an experience of
The
so and so
name of
years
the
and
post.
highly efficient in her work or
That is job specification. That is job
The name
specification.
of the post.
Yes. First thing would be the
Like,
job title, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Then salary
Then
offered, maybe.
no salary will not be there. The
Okay.
next, what would be the next thing? Number of hours
or
that the person has to
experience.
perform the duties. Yes. Number of working hours, working
Sir,
conditions.
experience.
Uh, See, job specification will list all those things. So here we will be seeing as to what she has got to do, right? Attending to the patients, that is there, and they have got to see that what the doctor has prescribed, that medicine has to be administered, right? If injectables are there, then those injections has to be administered. If you are saying that fluid has to be given, then she has got to arrange to for the saline or anything of that kind to flow into the body of the patient, right? Similarly, she has got to monitor the patient. So all those things will be forming part of the job description of this particular uh, lady who is shown here in the dress of a sister. Right. So same thing happens in the organizations as well. When we say blue collar worker or a white collar worker, by seeing that, we can tell as to what is the job description, right? And what is the position of that person in the organization, like this lady's position in a hospital. Then it is followed by job specification. Now, job specification for trained personnel would be different, and job specification for untrained, employees would be different. So, in the first category, the focus will be on traits like length of previous service, quality of relevant training, and previous job performance. Whereas for untrained, it will be physical traits, personality traits, interests, or sensory skills that imply some potential for performing or for being trained to do that job. That will be for untrained. Now, job specification can also be based on judgment, that is self-created judgment, or list of competencies in web-based system, or we have got ONET, that is online system that operates for a particular job, and standard occupational classification that we have seen, whether they belong to pay band 1, pay band 2, technical, non-technical, so on and so forth. Then specification will also be based on statistical analysis, where attempts to determine statistically the relationship between predictor or human traits as to what kind of traits will basically be there for performing a particular job. When the selection takes place, we find that the instrument that is given, instrument here means tests that is being given. The question asked basically determines are the predictors of performance of that individual, that if somebody can answer that question, it is expected that his maturity level, his knowledge level is of a base that he can perform job X or job Y. We find that for writing a job specification, in terms of a statistical approach would be analyze the job and decide how to measure job performance. It will be selecting personal traits that you believe should predict successful performance, test candidates for these traits, measure the candidate's subsequent job, statistically analyze relationship between human traits and job performance that is there. And if you have got to write job description, there are 6 steps like job analysis, decide on plan, develop an organization chart, use a job analysis and job description questionnaire, obtain list of job duties and responsibilities, compile the job's human requirements, that is the qualification, experience, etc., human traits, etc., and complete your job description that is there. Now, if you have got to have job analysis in a jobless world, it is defined as a set of closely related activities carried out for pay purposes that is there. But we are finding that that is not relevant for us here. But there are certain terms we must be familiar with. That is for the job enlarged. We have got 2 terms that is called job enlargement and job enrichment. Now, job enlargement, as we could see, is assigning workers additional same level responsibility, right? If a person cannot be promoted, right? Because if the 5 people were working at the same level and there is only 1 vacancy for promotion, all 5 were candidates, only 1 will be promoted. What will happen to the other 4 individuals? If they are not promoted, do you think they will still be highly motivated kind of a person in the organization?
Not at all, sir.
They will be disappointed initially, yes. And it may lead to reduction in the productivity of those individuals in the organization because everybody feels. In fact, the least qualified person feels that he was the most deserving person to be there because of the lack of knowledge that he has got, right? Therefore, in order to keep them motivated, organizations indulge into a plan called job enlargement, where although they are not being promoted, but their jobs are being enlarged, they are given same level additional responsibility. Now, with responsibility, power comes up. And you know that once the power comes up, the individual will no longer be demotivated. Although dejection will be there, but demotivation may not be there because the person's responsibility has increased. With that, the power has increased. And maybe that with increased responsibility, the salary level might have gone up as well. Or the benefits that the person draws might have gone up. So earlier, if they were not having facilities of chauffeur-driven vehicle with them, they will be given additional facilities. Or that they were having 1 offices to attend. Now he'll be having larger office, or will be having an additional office to shift to. Or maybe that certain number of employees will also increase who is working with them. So they will get additional secretaries maybe, or additional hands to work with. All those things will keep motivated. That is where we say job enlargement is additional same level responsibility or activities that is being assigned to those individuals. Then the second thing that happens when a person, is called job enrichment. Job enrichment, the whole concept was proposed by a gentleman known as Herzberg. You might have heard of Herzberg's 2-factor theory of motivation. that is the hygiene factor and the motivators, right? Now he says that you remove the hygiene factors and use only motivators which are there. And that is how he has given that two-factor theory of motivation which is there. But here we are not looking at the two-factor theory, we are looking at the concept of job enlargement, which was proposed by Herzberg. And Herzberg says that redesigning jobs in a way that increases the opportunity for workers to experience feeling of responsibility, achievement, growth, and recognition. Now, this is applied when we find that a person requires training to perform the job effectively and efficiently, but training stops working beyond a certain level. Now, if the training has stopped working, how do you keep them motivated if the person has reached the top of the pyramid? Right? Now, what is there to for him or her to remain motivated? That is very, very important question. Now, here, Herzberg says that you will apply the principle of job enrichment to keep them motivated. Now, what motivates an individual at the top? Because he has already achieved, if you look at the need hierarchy theory that you might have read by now. Have you read need hierarchy theory? Anybody?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet, sir. Not yet. Yeah.
Okay. Need hierarchy theory is basically saying that there are different levels of satisfaction of individual based on the needs of the individual. So at the bottom, we find that it is the physiological needs
Yeah.
which is being defined. Then we have security needs, we have social needs, we have self-esteem, and we have got self-actualization, which is there at the top, right? So what happens is that once you have reached the top of the pyramid, you are at the point of self-actualization, because initially you need more money because your physiological needs have got to be fulfilled. As you progress, you will need security needs. So it is pertaining to the housing, it is pertaining to the job security that is required. Beyond that, you will require some kind of a recognition in society, that is the social need of the individual, need of relating to people, need of the relationships which are there. Then beyond that, we say self-esteem is there when you feel that you have contributed to the organization, you have contributed to society. And self-actualization is where you reach the top of it, where you feel that you are really somebody who has, achieved personal growth on the one hand, and are also, doing all kinds of good to society that is there, all kinds of good to economy of the country, so on and so forth. Now, the thing is that at the top level, when we talk about the job enrichment, we find that money will not motivate, although money is considered to be the largest motivator in the Indian condition that we have noticed, and several studies prove it. But as you progress, we find that money loses its value. Like the satisfaction that you study in economics, that if you are thirsty, the first, a glass of water will give you more satisfaction.
Yes, sir. So it's called law of diminishing marginal utility in economics.
Yes, right.
Yes,
right,
sir.
Right, that is there. So here also, as you progress, the money will be losing that concept. So what we find that it is the challenges which motivates at this point of time. It is the responsibility which motivates. It is the feeling of achievement which motivates. It is the feeling of growth that motivates. It is the feeling of recognition that motivates at the top. And therefore, organizations would be going for job enrichment process within the organization, so that the person who has reached the top would be remaining motivated, right? So that can be applied to our conditions as well. Now that we have already reached the apex of our position, there is hardly any position in the university which I need to enjoy, right? Because you say that you were an assistant professor, you became associate, you became professor, you became chairperson, you became dean, you became executive council member, academic council member, court member, member of finance committee, officiating vice chancellor, and so on and so forth. What else? So what keeps us motivated? It is the recognition. It is the challenges which keeps us motivated, right? There is a third concept that we also need to learn here. That is the concept of job rotation. Now, job rotation is basically moving a trainee from department to department to broaden his or her experience and identify strong and weak points to prepare the person for an enhanced role with the company. See, it is also systematically moving workers from one job to another to enhance work team performance. It is also that we want these individuals to, get experience of virtually all fields within a specified area so that he can be made to work anywhere as and when it is necessary, right? And at a point of time when we all know that life cycle of job has decreased, we find that there will be work redundancy may occur, and therefore job rotation is a good method of preparing employee for any other work that is available within the organization rather than making them redundant, that is worker redundancy, to come into the fold. We also find that sometimes we ourselves do not know what is our inner strength, what is our inner potential, what is our intrinsic quality, what is our intrinsic interest. We go by the extrinsic interests and choose an area in which we want to specialize, choose an area in which we have got to work, and in the process we find that we were not all that good in that particular area. And then a way to find that out would be that job rotation. Once we join an organization, organizations would put you on job rotation to find out the intrinsic quality of that individual, intrinsic interest of that individual, and utilize that for the purpose of posting those employees into right kind of a position where he would enjoy working. He would consider job as a hobby rather than as something of a responsibility and do not enjoy that. Now, what we find that, uh, you know, there can be competency-based job analysis as well. So competency-based job analysis will be demonstrable characteristics of a person that enable performance for a job. Today, once we are talking about, quality management, right? Total quality management that we talk about, or we talk about Six Sigma, or we talk about, Kaizen as a principle. So quality requires that we must have those competency as demonstrable competency, demonstrable characteristics of the person. And therefore, in HR, when you see that any organization has got, a quality certification, have you heard of ISO 9001, 2000, 2016 that is given today for HR competency in different organizations? You might have seen that is written on the boards of the organization that it is
Yes, sir.
ISO certified company, right?
Yes, sir.
Basically,
International
that
Standard
is,
Organization.
that is basically based on demonstrable characteristics which are there. So based on the competency-based analysis, job analysis that is being done. Competency-based job analysis will be describing a job in terms of measurable, observable behavioral competencies, that is knowledge, skill, and behavior an employee must exhibit to do a job well before they are being certified. When we do training, we will see as to how training is certified, or those ISO 9001, 2016 or 2000 will be given to any organization. So that is also very, very important. Then we find that there are certain areas where competency analysis is necessary. For example, to support high performance work system, it is necessary. To maintain strategic focus, it is necessary. And for the measurement of performance, it is competency-based analysis is necessary. We also find that for performance management system, it is necessary. That is managing all elements of organizational process that affect how well employee perform. Types of competency, that is general competencies, leadership competencies. We have got technical competencies which are there. So they will be forming part of this particular part called job analysis, job description, and job specification. Before I quit, if you have any question, because I'll not start new topic today, I'll start that tomorrow. If you have any question, any clarification, you are free to ask me, please.
Sir, can you please show the previous slide where we have been told why use competency analysis?
Types of competency?
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
this one.
this is
Thank
good.
you, sir.